it's
Let's do it.
maybe a good place to start is like, your start in jiu-jitsu, because I know you were with you and Don obviously know each other quite well from
Yes.
Quan Vessels and
Yeah.
everything. Is that where you started? Or?
It's not actually. So I actually started with that guy over there when I was 5 years old.
5?
Yeah. So, I mean, my sister and I have been doing it since very, very young age. So we started with him, with my dad doing the Gracie Combatives. He bought like DVDs and then we had a gym at our house. And so we started training there. And then at about, 7 or 8 years old, we started training at Rio Grappling affiliate Bobby Kiriganides.
Right.
And that's where I went from white to purple. Actually, only once I got my purple belt did I move over to Quan Vessels with Rich and those guys. And yeah, that led me to where I am today.
Did you just like, what made you move over to Rich and?
Yeah, so at the time I felt like Bobby was more of like a recreational coach. He was only doing 3 or 4 sessions a week, and so I'd started cross training with Rich while still training at Bobby, and eventually it just made more sense for me to switch over completely to Rich, where they were doing 2 to 3 classes every day. So I'd start by going there. I'd get there 5:30 in the morning, and I'd just stay the whole day and train throughout the whole day. It just made more sense to me doing that than having to go back and forth to train at 2 different places. So yeah.
And Rich is also like, he's a lifelong student of the game.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say, between him and my dad, it's very close to they're like the John Danaher of South Africa, I would say. My dad spends a lot of time studying John's stuff, obviously, and then Rich is also another guy who's always trying to learn and improve. Even if it's outside of jiu-jitsu, he's always studying something to improve himself and be able to share knowledge with people. So that was something that I definitely liked, and yeah, definitely was worth it.
What age did you start competing at? Because I saw I actually just saw your smooth comp record. It's still got all your South African stuff.
Yeah. So I think I competed once when I was maybe like 7 or 8, but I only actually started competing for myself at about maybe 15 or 16. So because my dad, there was something that he'd forced us to do when we were kids, I actually disliked it for a very long time.
Jiu-jitsu now?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I would say from like maybe that time where we started until I was about 12 or 13 is something that I really didn't like at all. And he never forced me to compete or anything, but he always wanted me to do it just so it was a skill that I would have, And I'm very glad he didn't let me quit, because otherwise I might not be in the situation. So,
yeah, in hindsight, it's a blessing to have somebody.
Yeah.
Was it just because were you guys training early in the morning, or was it just...
Honestly, I think I was just lazy. And also, when you're not good at something, or you feel like you're not good at something, it's not as fun, right? So the better you get at something, the more enjoyable it becomes. So I think I was probably just at a stage where I didn't really feel like I was good at it, and just didn't enjoy it. And maybe just because he was telling me I had to do it, I was like, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Just typical defiance of your parents as a
100%.
kid.
I had the same when I did with my mom. I actually wanted to do woodwork.
Oh, really?
And then we had a choice between woodwork and music. And my mom was like, you will play guitar.
Yeah.
And you will do guitar. And I was like, but why?
Yeah.
And I actually wish I would have carried on, because it would have been really cool to still be able to play guitar.
Yeah.
But, I guess I get what you're saying with the defiance.
The same thing happened to me with guitar as well. They forced me to play it. And when I finally finished high school, I quit. And I wish I'd carried on playing. I haven't played in about 5 years. And I actually took my guitar with me to America, and I've tried to sit down and play it, but for the life of me, I can't remember.
It's gone. It's gone. You have to keep practicing, man. And so then when you went to with Rich,
yes,
did you then start to find your groove again, and then you say start enjoying it?
Yeah. So I would say I started to enjoy it before I moved to Rich. I would say maybe I was about 15 or so when I started taking an interest in it again, and really pushing myself to train more. And then obviously it was something that was nice because I got to spend a lot of time with my dad doing. So obviously, everyone who knows me knows that my dad and I are like best friends. So that is something that's very nice for us to do together. And then just when I got to the point where I felt like I had to be training more to be competitive, that's when I decided I had to move over to Rich, just to be able to train every single day, as opposed to 4 times a week. And that really did help my game level up, at least while I was here in South Africa,
What are those guys doing that makes their guys so good, Is it just fundamentals? Is it
at Rich or
at Rich?
I think it's just having a coach that's also teachable, right? Who's willing to learn. I think a lot of times, especially in like places where the jiu-jitsu community is smaller and you have like more old school jiu-jitsu guys, it seems like most of the older guys are more reluctant to learn new techniques, right? And I think that slows down the progression of the student, because the coach is like worried about the students surpassing them, so they try and keep everything as close as possible. But I think that Rich is a very teachable person. Like, I know if I had a question for him and he didn't know the answer, you're like, okay, give me a couple of days, I'll go look at this, and come back to me and ask the question, and he'd help me get through it. Same with my dad studying now. I mean, obviously he's running the school that I started, so if he's got issues, he phones me, and if I can help him, I help him. So I think if you're a coach, being teachable is very important, because that helps you be able to learn more, and in that way convey that information to your students and help improve the whole room.
100%. It's just as important, I guess, as being coachable.
Yes.
when you're a student.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, and then so how many years were you competing under them in South Africa?
I think maybe 3 or 4 years, not even, maybe from 16 to about 18, and then maybe 19. And then, I think towards the end of 2020 is when I went over to the US.
Could you tell, like, when you were competing here, could you tell like your level was different to everybody else? And
look, I was better than pretty much everybody here before I left. There was one guy who actually still has 2 wins over me, Sustained Alanga. I don't know, he hasn't competed in a very long time. I think he's also in the States, if I'm not mistaken. I heard that he is on a wrestling scholarship. I'm not too sure what university he's competing in, but I've heard doing very well. But besides him, I think with the two of us was just completely cleaning up everybody here. We were, at that age, already competing against adults, and so it was only a matter of time before we had to kind of go across the pond and start competing internationally.
100%, yeah. Because I looked again, like I said, I saw your smooth comp today, and it was just like green all over the place. And I looked at some of the names, like a lot of those people actually now have black belts as well.
Yes, yeah.
And you were competing against them, under 19 years old.
Yes, yeah. So as a blue and purple belt.
That's crazy.
Yeah, looking back, even just coming down to Cape Town, the memories that I have of traveling down here to compete 2-3 times a year is definitely something that I look back on very fondly, as like my early stages of competition, So, yeah.
So you mentioned going over now. How did you go about doing that? What's the, because did you know somebody that side, or could you just phone and say, look, I want to come train? Or no.
So actually everything very kind of happened by chance, because I didn't actually even plan on going. So it was my second time competing at European trials, and I trained really hard here, and I was like, okay, let's see if I can win. And I lost second round. Very close decision, actually. There was no points scored, but the guy won the referee's decision. And I was there in Poland with my dad in the hotel, and we were kind of discussing what the next steps were going to be. It's like, okay, do I give up now? Like, I've tried twice and I just can't do it. Or like, what's going to be the plan going forward? And my mom was on the phone. And at the time, we already had US visas, because before COVID, we'd planned to go to New York to train with John. But then obviously everything happened with COVID, and we were unable to travel. So we had the visas in our passport, and my mom said, you know what, you're halfway across the world already. Why don't you just go over there and just try and train for a little bit, So my initial plan was to go for about a month and just train and try and compete while I was there, and to gain as much experience as possible. So eventually I decided, yes, okay, I'll go there. So I went there, and they had now moved to Texas from Puerto Rico. And so I went in to train, and they didn't know me at all. And the first day I trained there, I got a staph infection on my leg, so now I couldn't train.
Oh, no.
So I'm all the way there, and I'm having to sit on the side and watch. And I'm like stressing. I'm phoning my dad every day, like, what are we going to do? He's looking to see, okay, why don't you just go train somewhere else with the staph infection? We're paying so much money for you to be there. Like, you can't just be sitting doing nothing. So I said, no, look, I'm here for John. Let me just sit on the side, watch his classes. It's still going to be worth it. And towards the end of the week, when I finally was able to train again, he was like, no, you can come and train at Roca. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if it was the fact that I'd just been sitting there taking notes the whole week, or if it was just that he saw that I was another body that was maybe big enough to train with Gordon. At the time of the split, the room was quite empty, so they needed some people to come in and train. And I trained with him for that month, and then he asked me how long I was staying for. So I said, no, only maybe another week or two. And he's like, okay, what are the chances of you being able to stay and train full time?
Wow.
So, I mean, I was so excited when he said that. I phoned my parents and I was like, yeah, we got to figure out a way for me to stay. Like, I'm not coming home, you know?
Of course.
And so, yeah, that's how that happened. I mean, I lived in a hostel for about a year, a hostel that, I mean, there must have been about 35 people in there. One of the most disgusting places I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. In
Texas? Yeah, in Texas, yeah.
How many people were in the room?
So thankfully I had a room by myself,
Okay.
but it was tiny. I mean, the room fitted me and my bags next to me. That was it. It was like a closet. And then obviously shared bathrooms, shared kitchen. I mean, you buy food and everyone just steals all your chow. You go there, it was crazy. But I mean, absolutely worth it. I mean, if I had to go back and do it again to stay there, I would. You know, it opened a lot of doors for me, and yeah, very grateful to be in the situation I am now to be able to stay and train there.
So did they see you like rolling and then saw that you had talent or that you were
I think
good,
once they'd invited me to Roca to train, I think that's when John had seen maybe that, okay, this guy has some potential and, you know, maybe we can harness it and, you know, see what we can do with this guy. And yeah, I'm very grateful that he did see that in me because, yeah, everything changed from there.
I just remember the photo Gordon Ryan posted where it's like, you don't know him already, but you will. Like how long after you joined was that?
That was about 2 or 3 months after.
Already,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. So, you know, I still don't know. I think Gordon could have been being nice to me at that point. You know, I don't even know if he was being serious or not. But, you know, I think he could have done it actually just for me. He's done it a few times actually. It puts pressure on me where he makes a post about something before I compete to put pressure on me to actually do well. So like before I won trials the first time, he posted a photo and he was like, say hello to your new trials winner at this. So now I was like, sure, but if I don't win, I'm going to look like a fool and he's going to look like a fool. So now I have to win.
Yeah.
Right. So he does small stuff like that just to kind of edge you on a little bit and in a way put some healthy pressure on you. It's not always that healthy, but
it's a lot of pressure.
It pays off.
I can imagine the pressure that like the first time that happens, you're like, oh man, I have to do it. But I guess, you know, now if you're kind of used to it, it probably motivates you.
Yeah,
with
for
having
sure.
His backing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very nice to have the support of somebody of that caliber. And I mean, even without that, you know, just me training in that room, I want to push myself as much as I can to do as well as I can because, I mean, the amount of work that John and Gordon and even Gary have put into me and, you know, like the belief they've had in me to do well has really been something that's helped me a lot. So even without that now, I really put a lot of pressure on myself to do well just because of, you know, everything they've done to help me. And obviously I want to win, right?
Of course.
The more I win, the better.
You wouldn't be there. Yeah, you wouldn't be there if you weren't trying to win. What was it like rolling with someone like Gordon, like the names you mentioned, like Gordon Ryan, Gary Tone, and all these guys? What's it like the first time?
It's crazy. I mean, like rolling with Gordon, I can't actually describe it to anybody. Like you look at him rolling before you do it, and you know you can see how good he is, but you can't actually like put into words until you feel it, right? It's just incredible, like the technical knowledge that he has, and just his understanding of jiu-jitsu in general is so good that when you roll with him, it's impossible to do almost anything, right? Obviously, when you get to know him, it starts to get slightly easier, but I mean, not nearly to the point of the way I can actually do things that I want to do to him. You know, most of the time, if I do something, it's because he lets me do it.
Right. Okay.
You know, so yeah, he's got this understanding of where he knows exactly where you're going in the roll, and he knows exactly what to do to counter everything that you're gonna do, right? So it's like rolling with someone who knows the future.
10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
And he's also, I mean, it's the thing that's so like striking about him is he's so slow and methodical most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, you know, you look at like particularly with Nogi, everyone's like Boston explosive and it's just like a crazy flurry.
Yeah.
But he's just slow, systematic, just goes through.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's obviously because he knows exactly what reaction to try to get out of you. And he steps ahead.
Yes.
And he's probably super strong. I mean, he looks
I mean, he's
insane.
an absolute unit. But I mean, when he trains with us, I mean, he doesn't use much strength, to be honest with you. He doesn't have to. I mean, if he uses 60-70% of his strength, it's going to be hard for us to do anything. But I think, you know, that approach that he takes with that slow and methodical approach is also because a lot of his matches are no time limit.
Right.
So his whole thing with the no time limit matches, or any match that's, I would say, maybe 15 minutes or longer, is pressure over time, right? Putting pressure, constant pressure over your training partner over a period of time that breaks their posture, and eventually like their cardio starts to go and they start making mistakes. So that's his whole game. But it does change slightly depending on the time of length, length of the match. So the shorter it gets, the quicker you have to be, obviously. But yeah, I mean, at this point, he just names the length of the time of the match he wants to do, and people they have to say yes or no,
Yeah.
So,
How does he prep for those no time limits? Because I've seen some footage, obviously, of you guys rolling.
Yeah.
Does he just stay on the mat and you rotate? Or?
Yeah, so we won't really rotate. I mean, whoever gets stuck with Gordon for the long round is stuck with him for the whole round, right? So yeah, if he has a no time limit match, we'll do like 45-minute matches
in
training. Yeah. So then whoever
doesn't
gets,
sound fun for
it's
the
not
training
fun.
partner.
It's not fun. Yeah. Honestly though, I will be honest, I prefer doing a long round with Gordon than doing multiple short rounds with him, because the short rounds, your speed is and your heart rate goes up, and then you're tired and he's not tired anymore, and you have to go again, right? But if you're doing one long round, then both of you have to pace yourself, so it's a little bit easier. But yeah, if you like blow your gasket in like the first 5 minutes and you still have 40 minutes to go, then it's a long day,
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen to many people. I mean, it's happened to me a couple of times, but you kind of learn how to avoid that. But yeah, I mean, especially if you're watching, like if you're sick with something and they're doing a long round, to watch someone suffer through a 40-minute round with Gordon is, even for you watching, is hard.
It's brutal, especially if he's working on something like he wants to smother.
Yes.
Like there was the one no time limit. I forget who his opponent was, but
Pedro.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And Pedro was like, it was late, like in the middle of the match.
It was,
and he kept trying to smother him, and he kept giving his back up, and Gordon was like, no,
not
back
yet.
on your back.
Yeah.
Let's go for the smother again.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
Yeah. No, I must say, I mean, hats off to Pedro for not actually tapping to that. I mean, I don't know many people who haven't like succumbed to that smother tap. But yeah, I mean, like how demoralizing is it, to be underneath someone and you're trying to give them your back so that you can get submitted, and he just turns you back over and he's like, no, I don't want to finish him from behind. I want to smother you, right? That's scary.
It's bad enough when you're doing it if somebody's more, say, higher belt than you,
yes,
or better technique or stronger or whatever, and you just got a 5-minute roll and someone keeps trying to do that, like 45 minutes or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Brutal. And like, how long was it? I mean, did you feel at home straight away? Because obviously you'd like, it's a different level that side.
Yeah.
And how long, or how long did it take you to actually feel at home that side?
Yeah, so I mean, there were definitely guys who I was able to get the better of in training. Excuse me. Let's just take a sip of this quick.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I would say it took maybe 6 months or so for me to be able to start having competitive rounds with good guys. I think my jiu-jitsu was quite good at that point, but I didn't really have like purpose in what I was doing, right? I didn't know where I was going or why I was going there. I was just doing it. So I had good natural instincts, but I didn't have that knowledge to say, okay, this is why I'm going here, and this is what I'm doing. So I think it took me maybe 6 months or so to start getting that understanding of why I was doing the things I was doing, and that's when my level really started to elevate. So yeah.
And John Danaher, obviously being the head coach, I mean, I've seen footage and I've heard Gordon Ryan talk about him on Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
Seems like such an interesting guy, but he's got such a philosophical way of explaining things.
Yes.
Like even with the Bernardo Faria videos that he's doing on BJJ Fanatics.
Yeah.
It's like they're the longest videos because he's so thorough with everything.
Yeah.
Is he exactly like that in person?
Yeah.
Or?
I mean, he knows how to have fun as well. Like he's not always serious, but when it's time to train, he is serious. Obviously it's not a game for him. His students are the best for a reason, right? He is very methodical and, he takes everything very seriously. But before training and after training's done, he's just a regular guy. He jokes around with the guys, and, he's a very good storyteller. He's got plenty of good stories to tell. So, after training, everyone circles around him and, waits for him to start telling stories. But yeah, I mean, his knowledge about pretty much anything is just, incredible. You can ask him about any martial art or pretty much anything in general, and he'll be able to give you a very in-depth, informed answer about most things. So yeah, it is very, it's very interesting to see somebody who has so much knowledge about everything, you know. It's not very common.
Does it still feel surreal to like think that you're training with the best, like, you know, the best coaches,
Yeah.
the best team, or are you kind of like Conor McGregor says, like, this feels familiar now?
No, I mean, obviously it feels familiar, but it's definitely not something that I take for granted. You know, I still wake up every day very grateful to be in that room, because I mean, you know, you never know what can happen, and all of a sudden you can't do jiu-jitsu anymore. You know, something can happen very, very quickly and take that away. So I definitely am grateful for every day that I'm able to go in there and train. But yeah, it does start to get familiar, and you know, you start to get, you know, obviously the guys become, you know, like family. You're spending so much time with all those guys in the gym that yeah, you do get familiar with those guys. But yeah,
just a quick one again on Gordon. Is he like, what's his status with like his health and stuff? Like, I know he had some issues again.
Yeah. He's been struggling quite a bit over the last couple of months, unfortunately, and it's quite sad to see. You know, obviously, he's so young still. I think 28, and you know, he's got so much potential, but to see him plagued by this illness is you know, quite unfortunate. He does. I spoke to him a little while ago. He does think he seems to be getting a little bit better. I'm not too sure if he's training since I've been gone. I'm not sure if he's been in or not. But he does plan on competing at ADCC. So hopefully within the next couple of months, we start to see some drastic improvement, and he's able to train properly, at least leading up to that, you know. But yeah,
have they? I mean, I know they misdiagnosed it in the beginning, but did they end up finding
so
proper
I
diagnosis?
don't know exactly what the issue is, but I think the acidity levels inside his stomach and all that kind of stuff is messed up. So so what caused it is, back when they were still in New York, Gordon had a year where he got a lot of staph infections, and he had to take antibiotics. I think he told me he was on antibiotics for like 200 and something days out of the year.
Crazy.
So I think that just completely destroyed his stomach, right? And, you know, all that stuff. Excuse me. And yeah, I think it took a lot of doctors, you know, misdiagnosing him for him to find the one that he's with now. And I think that doctor's really been able to help him quite a bit. But I think as soon as he started to feel better, he started eating regular food again. And then I think he also said to me, sometimes when he has a lot of back-to-back competitions, like kind of that stress of knowing that there's more competitions coming, sometimes also affects his gut health, you know. So just as soon as he started competing regularly again, it started to crash. So I think he's got to be more selective about, you know, the matches that he does take, just to prioritize his health.
Yeah, 100%, man. It would be such a shame if he doesn't. I mean, I know he wants to compete again, but it would be, man, what that guy achieved in such a young age. I mean,
it's incredible.
20 something already. I mean, there's no one better.
Yeah, there's no one close.
Him, you know?
Yeah.
My thing is just, I always wonder, like, when you're in his position, how do you get better? Like, what does he do? Like, does he just go back to basics, try new techniques, or how do you get better?
So he's always developing new pathways to do things, right? So obviously at a certain point it does become hard to develop new moves, right? Because there's not really anything, you're limited in like the amount of moves you have on the human body. But the way that he's able to think and develop different pathways of achieving said positions is incredible, right? And how he thinks about, you know, elbow knee connection in certain areas, and, you know, just ways to block your training partner and actually stop them from being able to re-guard and bring knees inside. Stuff like this is something that, you know, I've never seen before. Every day after training, he comes to John and he's like, look what I've figured out, this and this and this, you know. So whenever he's rolling with someone who's significantly like lower level, he's always thinking about different ways that he can improve how he gets into certain positions, right? And I think that's how he keeps his brain working and continues to improve his knowledge and technical ability.
That's important, actually. That's an important point you think about. You know, most of the time you just think about like, okay, I'm going to change this move, or I'm going to go for this submission now. But it's actually the small, finer details of getting to there, or finding new ways, like you say, to get there.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you see that a lot now with the back takes from all crazy positions in any event as well. So that makes sense. You had a crazy year last year. How many was it? 48?
48 matches total, and I think I did have one loss, and then it was 47 wins with 47 submissions.
That's crazy.
So it was a very good year for me. Obviously very good. I broke into the top 15 and then eventually the top 10 again, which was really great. So yeah, I mean, just try to compete as much as possible. It's been kind of a slow start to the year now. But yeah, normally after ADCC, it should be quite busy again. Like the last portion of the year has quite a lot of big tournaments. So that's normally when I get the busiest, you know.
What did you make any changes or any adjustments, or was it just like more time on the mat that got you? Because I mean, 47 wins, 47 subs, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. Did you realize?
Yeah.
You realize how insane that is?
Yeah, look, I mean, it is a pretty awesome like statistic, but I mean, at the end of the day, like it wasn't like I was chasing a number, right? So that kind of helped, you know, kind of block out that number from my mind and just keep going. At the end of the day, my main goal is to have exciting matches, number one, and at the end of the day, I want to be submitting people because that's like how I show that I'm superior, like technically, right? And then as well as, you know, I'm in a sport that I want to win, but like John always points out to us, it's also the entertainment business, right? So people only want to pay to watch you if you're exciting. And so if I win every single match that I do by like an advantage or like a decision, yeah, I'm winning matches, but nobody wants to watch me. But if I go out there and I'm constantly looking to finish somebody or like, you know, people want to see that kind of thing happening. So that's how you build a brand that, you know, makes people want to, you know, either come to your seminars or buy your DVDs or watch your matches. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for. So even if I don't win every match, which I'm going to try to do, obviously, but I go out and try to finish people, I'm still going to be attracting that audience that wants to watch and you know, support me.
100%.
So that's the whole goal.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've had this discussion with a lot of people as well about advantages, and like you see a lot of the local competitions, unfortunately.
Yeah.
People would actually one of my friends in the brown belt division now, he lost like at an advantage at the end as well. And he said like the guy just wouldn't engage for about 4.5 minutes of the 5. And then all of a sudden, when that like last 30 seconds is there, try to get some sort of advantage to win. And it's like, it's true. No one wants to see that.
Yeah.
And it's good that you know, John Danaher is like putting that into, because it is the entertainment business.
Yes.
It's early days still.
Yeah.
But, you know, people you're trying to put asses in seats, as people say.
Yes,
You know, and that does do it.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, you know, you obviously have different ways of doing it, right? So for me personally, I'm not a huge internet talker. But, you know, Gordon and Nicholas are a good example of this. They're very good at talking online, which gets people's attention and brings, you know, people to seats. But they're just as good at finishing people, right? So
you have to back it up.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, I'm not a huge fan of talking online. I don't really have the personality for that. But if people come and they watch my fights, they're always entertained. You know, so you got both ways to do that.
It's better to just be yourself, honestly. Like, you know, I mean, you get people that try to fake it too much, and you can see straight through it.
Yes, yeah.
UFC is a big one for that. And then all becomes cringe, you know.
Yes, like, for sure.
I like Colby Covington, but he's not, like, that's not actually his personality. He's actually a nice guy. If you see him before his whole like heel turn, he was a nice guy. And now it kind of comes across as cringe.
Yes, yeah.
So it's better to just be yourself, you know.
No, for sure.
Craig Jones said something after did you see it?
I did. We dressed up kind of in the little African outfit.
Yeah.
So obviously, Craig's a big name. I've wanted to fight him for a long time. There's a couple reasons. Obviously, it's new wave B team, so people want to see that. But also, like, you know, when I was about 17, he came to South Africa and a string of seminars here, and I went to the seminar and rolled with him. So I think it would just be cool to have a match with him, beat him, and then post the footage of him beating me up at the seminar afterwards.
That'd be very cool.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, obviously, Craig is quite a funny guy. I mean, he's one of those guys who just has that gift of the gab. You know, he's good at talking. So, yeah, he's one of those guys who really does hype up the fights. But unfortunately, he is kind of on the downside of his career, where he's getting a little bit older now and doesn't enjoy competing anymore as much. At least that's what it seems like. So I don't think that I'll have the opportunity to compete against him unless it's in like kind of a competition format like ADCC or something like that, where he's forced to actually compete against me.
And he hasn't I don't think he's been doing that many ADCCs, has he?
I mean, so he's recently been talking about the prize money issue. So like he's kind of doesn't think that it's worth it to do ADCC. So I'm not even sure if he's going to do the next one. If he doesn't, then I don't think I'll ever get the chance to compete against him. If he does, depending on the division, I might have that opportunity. But yeah, I mean, he, like, from what it seems like, the way he talks, he makes more money from his YouTube channel and selling merchandise and stuff like that than he does from competing. So it doesn't seem like he's too interested in doing that.
Maybe that, what is that? What do they call it? Karate combat? Or
Yes, yeah.
would you do something like that?
Yeah, so I actually did compete on it. But the thing is with Craig, it seems like when he takes matches now, it's only like retired UFC guys.
All right.
So I mean, he wants the easy money matches,
Paydays.
where he can go on his benders afterwards and have some
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, so
Yeah, man. I don't know. Look, he's like you say, he's super entertaining.
he is. Yeah.
And I like he's where like with Gordon, it's like a lot of like he's just imposing his will on you all the time,
Yes.
and it's like that. It's like flawless system of going to the next thing.
Yes.
With Craig Jones, it just seems like he's like in odd positions and he's just
Yeah.
hitting subs from odd positions, you know?
Yeah. So the thing about what makes Craig dangerous is that he's not scared to take chances, right? So a lot of people will be in certain positions where they see a potential opportunity, but they're like gun shy. Whereas Craig is not gun shy at all. He can be in a very like awkward, compromising position, and he'll put himself in a worse position to try and get to like some kind of submission, right? So that's what makes him exciting and also very dangerous. And then he also does have that technical jiu-jitsu that you see from everyone else that trains under John, right? So he obviously did spend a long time training with John, so he has all that technical information. But yeah, he does have a very dangerous and kind of awkward style to deal with.
Super awkward, yeah. I enjoyed watching a lot of his rolling, like those rolls where he just goes and rolls the whole gym.
Yes, yeah.
And then he's just, I mean, with people who aren't sort of competitive per se, but like
Yes.
it's just so funny because he lets people get in such weird positions.
Yeah.
Advantage to them, and then he
Yes.
just hits subs out of nowhere. And
Yeah.
like, why is he doing making them look foolish? But that would be a very entertaining match.
I think it'd be a fun match. I think the fans would really enjoy that. And yeah, I mean, South African, Australian, it's the
We've
tailors
seen how
all
that
the
goes
time,
already, So yeah, Australia can take another L.
Yeah.
It's okay, And tell me, Sub Kings, you're gonna get involved now on the commentating
Yeah.
side, right?
So Al's invited me to come and commentate on the Sub Kings, which is tomorrow night. So I'm quite excited to do that. I've never done anything like commentary before, so I'm not even sure how good I would be at it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm excited. I got a couple family members on the card. So two of my cousins are competing, Aiden, and then my younger cousin Joshua. They're both competing, so it should be fun to watch them. And then a couple of my dad's students from Cornerstone will be on there as well. So yeah, it'd definitely be nice to go on there and watch the guys compete and just be a part of one of the local events again, because it's been a while since I've been here during a competition time. So it's gonna be fun.
Would you ever compete at Sub Kings if they offered it to you?
It depends on the money,
Okay.
right? So obviously, like, I don't want to say like I'm money hungry, but for me, it's like
It has to make sense.
it has to make sense to come back here and compete, right? I mean, there's not really anybody here who I think would be that challenging for me.
What about Johan Westhuizen?
Yeah, so people have said, try and compete against Johan, but I mean, he just went to the trials and he got submitted in 30 seconds. Like, I beat twice pretty easily. So I would compete against him, but it would have to be for like a decent chunk of money. Like, if for me to fly all the way back here, and the thing is, it's not like what might be a lot of money here for me is not a lot anymore, because I have to pay rent in dollars, right?
Of course. Yeah.
So if I come here and I make 10,000 rand, it does absolutely nothing for me, unfortunately. I mean, that's horrible to say. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm ungrateful, but it also has to be worth for me to actually help me to make a living and like be able to support myself there, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't think that like we're at the stage where someone would be able to pay me what I'm actually needing to get paid to support myself over there. But if they were wanting to pay and the money was right, then yeah, I'll compete against anyone.
Okay. Because we've been talking about it a lot, because I think a lot of people actually want to see that matchup.
Yeah.
Just because I think Johan in South Africa, there's no one that comes close to him. I mean, I can't think of anybody that.
No, I agree.
So it would just, it would just be interesting to see where it is. Obviously, you've gone further.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, okay, so there's the answer to everybody that was wondering.
Yeah, no, look, like I said,
we'd have to sell a lot of tickets.
Yeah, if you guys book up like the Coca-Cola Dome or something and you give me all the ticket sales, let's do it.
Okay, cool. There you go, Al, if you want to know. Okay, so you mentioned, because I was watching Aiden at the ADCC here.
Yes, yeah.
How often do you guys still like see each other? And
so he came over to Texas to spend about 6 months with me.
that.
And the two of us actually get along very well. We're very close, like brothers. I mean, we grew up very close. So, I mean, I'd love it if you would come and spend some more time with me there, but I don't think he's too interested in going back.
Do you just not enjoy it, or
he said he enjoyed it, but I think he's occupied here. You know, his parents are here. He's got other stuff that he's got going on. But yeah, I mean, I haven't actually seen him now since I got back. So hopefully, when I go back, I get to spend some time with him. But yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of potential. But you know, he's gonna hate me saying this, but he's a bit lazy.
Okay.
You know, he doesn't train as much as he should. And I think he could definitely go a lot further than he has gone now if he actually put his mind to it. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully he has a good showing tomorrow night against. He's got a tough opponent. Tian Gerber's no slouch. You know, I've known Tian. He competed while I was still here. And, you know, he's got a very, very tough and technical game for Aiden. I think Aiden should be able to beat him. But, yeah, it's going to be a tough match. So I think it'll be a good test for Aiden.
He has a lot of good matches on that card.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking forward to Hannah actually doing the 8 woman.
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately,
she had to pull out.
Yeah. So she's had a bit of rough luck lately. I think before trials she tore her meniscus, and she's got some shoulder issues that she actually injured herself the last day we trained in Texas, because she was staying with me for a little bit as well, and she injured herself, and it still hasn't healed up. And then obviously we were both in the UK recently, and then we both got really, really sick, so she hadn't been able to train for about a month. And so I said to her, you know, it just wasn't worth it to compete. So unfortunately for all the fans, they won't get to see that, but hopefully she heals up quickly, and whoever gets the belt, I'm sure she can get a match with them, you know.
Probably be the first contender. Yeah. Is there a chance for, I mean, I know Jordan Leclos there as well.
Yes,
with you guys. Is there like a way for people from here, you know, if they're showing promise, to go over to you guys? Is there a line that way, or?
So obviously for Jordan, it was a little bit different because, you know, Kurt is a black belt under John. So Jordan was able to come in and train with us, and he is obviously one of the more technical, like 77 guys in South Africa. So, you know, he trains very well there with guys like Taza, Davis, and those guys. If guys from here wanted to go and train, they wouldn't be able to get directly into Roka. John teaches at RGA Austin and then at Roka, but 2 classes at each every day. The teaching is the same. It's just that the pros don't train at RGA. So if anyone here wanted to go there, they would have to start at RGA. And if John decided that they were technical enough, safe enough training partners, he might then invite them to Roka. It's not guaranteed, but there's a possibility. Yeah, it's just difficult because obviously guys come in and they see John and all of a sudden they want to impress him, so they start going crazy, and then you end up injuring people, right? So John kind of separates like guys who want to come in and train from the pros just for safety reasons.
Yeah, he's got to be careful, you know. I mean, it's high stakes, and it's the best team in the world,
Yeah,
you know. So
yeah.
if you can't have people, especially close to competition, I can imagine.
Yeah, and I mean,
injured.
also, like, people don't realize, like, a lot of guys come in, they're working a full-time job, and they're like, oh, they want to train in front of John. But guys like us, like, we make a living off of competition, right? So if we get injured and all of a sudden we can't compete for 6 months, it's like, it's a little bit of an issue, you know? So, yeah, we got to be careful about stuff like that.
Is it possible now to make a proper living in jiu-jitsu in the States?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still going to be tough in the beginning, right? But it's definitely possible to make a living. I mean, especially with teaching. I mean, obviously BJJ Fanatics is a huge thing that people are doing. Do I think you can make a living just off of competition? No. I think that's going to be tough, you know. There are certain tournaments that pay very well, but the frequency at which you're able to compete for those events can differ,
low.
Right? So if I make, let's say, for instance, $10,000 at one tournament, that's great. But if I don't compete for them again for like another 6 months, that $10,000 is gone, right? So I need to be able to, it needs to be at a point where you can compete at least once or twice a month, earning that amount of money if you really want to support yourself, which is possible. But then at the end of the day as well, like, you don't always win.
Yeah, everybody can't win.
Yeah, exactly, right? So you might get a few guys who can do that, but it's not possible for everybody. So I think teaching is something that's you have to be able to do if you want to make a living in jiu-jitsu.
Okay, so teaching is kind of the main way outside of
I
the
would say so, yeah.
Okay, and sponsorships or no?
Yeah, sponsorships can pay well as well. But
depending
I mean,
obviously on the sponsor and the level,
right. So again, that depends. Sometimes some guys get really good sponsors that pay very well. Sometimes sponsors are only able to help you with like entries and flights and stuff like that, which is still a huge help, right? So if I don't have to pay for my flights and accommodation to go somewhere, it's a huge help. But yeah, I would say teaching is probably your best bet.
Okay. So are you at a position now where then you can just like focus on competition at least then for
the time being, right?
Okay.
So I would say like the best way for you to do it is compete and train, and then maybe take like a weekend out of every month or whatever to fly somewhere and teach for a weekend and then come back, right? So you can make enough money if you do that once or twice every 2 months or so. You should be fine to support yourself. You won't be making millions, but you should be okay, right? I mean, obviously you can teach as much as you want. Some guys teach every weekend. For me personally, I don't think that's ideal, because now when you're traveling every weekend, you have jet lag, you have time away from training. So all that stuff can take away from your technical development and, fatigue your body. And at the end of the day, competition is what you want to do the most. So for me at this stage, like once every month or two is enough for me to get by, pretty healthily, but maintain a good training schedule and be able to compete, at a high level.
Yeah, the good balance. You need to have the balance. And like you say, that's the number one thing that you're there for, is to compete and to win.
Exactly.
It's just nice that you are actually you don't have to worry too much about, because some people still have to do it here.
Yeah.
Like how they're going to get to the competition, how's that going to be paid for.
Yeah, for
I look at like even MMA, but I look at guys like Drickus and Cameron, like they've worked to this position where they don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. So they can just focus on the core thing, which is training, which is super important. Now for ADCC, obviously it was 2 years ago, right, that you went to your first ADCC. What did you like? What was that experience like? And like, what did you learn, and what do you want to do different heading into this ADCC?
So I think it was an incredible experience. I mean, to compete in front of that many people. I mean, Thomas and Max Center was packed with 13,000 people. I mean, that's crazy. I felt very good in front of all the people. I didn't feel like I got stage fright or anything like that. But one thing I do feel like I was very hesitant to do anything, right? So I was so worried. Like I was like, yeah, this is the biggest stage I want to win. So I kind of limited myself to, certain things. So that match with Yuri went the full 15 minutes. It was very back and forth, but I didn't really pull the trigger on anything. And I think this time when I go in there, obviously I've developed a lot more technically and stuff like that. But I think I need to realize that I am better than a lot of those guys and actually pull the trigger and not be scared to go for things. I think that's what kind of opens up opportunities for you to get into good positions and to be able to finish people. So I think that going into this next ADCC is going to be a big factor.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when you go there, it's the biggest show that there is.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a tendency to maybe just respect your opponent too much,
right?
Like that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, sometimes, it is good to respect your opponent to a certain degree, but not to the level where you respect them so much that you don't want to do anything to them. At the end of the day, they have accomplished things at the sport, but I'm there to beat you, right? So I think, a healthy level of respect is good, but also you need to be able to go in there and, you want to take what they have. So I think that's a good attitude to have going in.
Yeah, impose your game. It's like respect, but don't let that affect your game and the game plan that you want to do. Yeah. And when did you say you were going back to
I fly back on the 7th of April.
7th of April.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the foreseeable future, you're that side, eh?
Yeah, I mean, my visa is until 2025. So after that, we'll have to reassess things and see. Obviously, I'd like to renew the visa and stay there. But I mean, things happen. So obviously, we're not too sure about that. But yeah, as long as I can stay and train there and compete and be successful, I mean, Texas is a great place to be. I don't really do much outside of training, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm perfectly fine with just going to the gym twice a day, every day for the rest of my life. So
yeah, that's what you're there for. I mean, what is so do you enjoy being in Texas?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's, very similar to South Africa climate wise. I mean, the weather's pretty good most of the time. The winter's a little bit colder than here. We do have some ice and not really snow. But it doesn't last very long, So in terms of that, it's pretty easy. And then yeah, I mean, everybody drives big trucks, so it's like, yeah, everyone drives buckies, so everyone likes steak, they like guns, what more could you ask for?
There's nothing more American, big gas guzzling cars and gun,
Yeah.
So wasn't it much of an adjustment to
No, it was fairly easy for me, to be honest with you. I mean, I think also like America is somewhere where I wanted to go for a long time. Since I was a little kid, when we were watching movies, it was somewhere like I wanted to go to America just to experience it. And when I did finally go there, I loved it immediately. So it was quite easy for me to adjust to. But I mean, it is hard for me to be away from family. So obviously that's the only hard part.
How often do your folks go up and
So
visit
so they come up every ADCC. So the last time they came for ADCC, and now they'll come again. But I try and come home once a year at least. Yeah, just to see everyone. Obviously, my grandparents can't come over there, and like my whole family is very close, so I have to make sure that I come and see the grannies every now and then. So yeah, that's pretty much how we do it.
They're in Durban, right? I think.
So no. So my whole family lives in Joburg,
Right.
but my grandma has a house in Durban, so whenever I'm home, we go down there and spend some time there as well.
Okay, yeah, because I saw something, I think it was December last year, I think you guys went down to...
Yeah, it would have been, so yeah, Hannah and them would have gone, but the last time I was here was probably May last year, or
Right.
April. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just on I mean, you've now had the fortune of like competing in South Africa at a very
Yes.
high level. Obviously, you still got contact with people, and like you've now gone to the highest level in the world, which is the ADCC show. Like one thing I ask a lot of people, and I mean, everyone's obviously got a different outlook on it.
Yeah.
Is like, how do we take South Africa? Because we've got the athletes,
Yeah.
So there are a few people, obviously yourself,
Yes.
Peyton, and Jordan's over there now, and there are other people here that are really, really talented. Like, how do we take South Africa to that level?
To that level, yeah. Look, I think, the thing that really makes it hard for South Africans is, unfortunately, our currency is so weak, right? And so it's hard for people to travel frequently to actually get that international competition experience. And I think initially that is what a lot of what is lacking is, people overseas have that opportunity to compete every single weekend and rack up that competition experience, right? Whereas here, you're lucky if you have 10 tournaments a year.
Yeah.
And so that plays a big role. Kids in Brazil, by the time they get to 18, they have like 10,000 matches. Where here, I mean, kids go from 5 to 18 and they've competed maybe 200 times, which seems like a lot for here, but it's nothing. So I think if you can compete internationally very often, I think that'll definitely help. And yeah, I mean, I would say like if you can get overseas and spend a period of time there and spend time training and competing, that'll definitely help. Because it's hard to actually stay and train here and then compete at the highest level, right? Because you have to come back. So for me, I'm in a position now where I can stay there and compete and train and keep my level growing. But a lot of people, like thankfully I had the support of my parents to actually help me initially, and they still help me a lot. But if you're here and you don't have that support, like it seems impossible to get overseas. So it is hard. Unfortunately, I don't have the answer for
Okay, no, but it does make sense. I mean, because I also asked Peyton, and she's I think actually Desley as well. I asked Desley, and it's like, for now, people just have to go and they have to experience it and come back. And it's crazy because I think Peyton also said she did more competitions in like 2 months than she did in a whole, or like 2 weeks, something crazy. Her whole
it's crazy.
Whole time in South Africa.
Yeah. I mean, because here you compete, you have maybe 2 matches in a tournament, and you sometimes compete against the same guy twice. But you go over there and you have like 8 matches in a tournament against someone different every time. Then you enter the absolute, and it's another 10 matches against 10 other people. So it's not comparable, unfortunately.
And the coaching and stuff, or is it? I mean,
I think the coaching here is definitely on par. I think, honestly, to be honest with you, John is a superior coach to anyone anyway. So I think that our coaching here is definitely on par with a lot of people overseas. I think maybe even better than some. But yeah, it's just the competition experience and also the level of training partners helps a lot, right? I mean, obviously for me, I get to train with the best guys in the world every single day. And a lot of times what happens is if someone's the best in the room, they start just, they beat everybody up, but they don't actually think about how they can improve themselves, right? So a lot of times, like John gave an example of Hodger Gracie. when he moved from the US to the UK, he opened his gym there. The highest level training partners he had were white and blue belts. And so he had to handicap himself in order to improve, right? So, okay, I'm only going to do this, or I'm going to only play guard on this side, or, you know, certain things like that where you force yourself to improve because you don't have the level of training partners to actually go hard with and, you know, do regular jiu-jitsu to improve. So I think people have to start doing stuff like that in order to improve their jiu-jitsu here.
Yeah, I mean, I think like we're sort of lucky now, or not lucky, but I mean, again, it's hard work.
Yeah.
You make your own luck, but like now I think the MMA will start to,
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
examples will start to go. I'm hoping jiu-jitsu as a byproduct, you know, because people are doing jiu-jitsu for MMA, that would hopefully help.
Yeah.
But until, like you say, you get all the competitions weekly.
Yeah, look, and the thing is with MMA, it is slightly different, right? Because you have a little bit more room to be not as good at one thing, right? So because it's mixed martial arts, you can be very good, but you don't have to be like precise. You can be very good at striking. You can be very good at grappling. You can be very good in certain areas. I'm not saying it's not hard. I think it's just as hard, but it's hard here because you don't have that many people who are so good in one thing, right? And that's what makes it difficult. And then as well as you have Drickis and these guys in the UFC now, which is awesome. They're getting paid well, right? But everybody else is not making any money. So you start working a job to support your jiu-jitsu, but now all of a sudden you can't train as much. So it's just a whole cycle of, you know, things being hard.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm saying, you know, they've worked themselves to that point where they now don't have to worry about that, you know. And I mean, even when you join the UFC, I've heard. I mean,
it's tough.
Actually, I'm not even saying I've heard. It's out there.
Yeah,
you know, people are getting like 5 and 5 to show.
It's crazy.
And to win.
It's crazy. I mean, we have a lot of UFC guys come and train with us. And obviously, if Dana likes you, it's great. But if he doesn't, I mean, it's very hard to make it in the UFC. Most guys who come in, a lot of them go from the UFC to PFL. I've heard that PFL pays a lot better to like everyone, because obviously they have that kind of tournament style MMA where everybody works their way towards that $1 million at the end of the year. But yeah, I mean, it's really tough to make a living.
Well, look at Don. I mean, Don was 2-0 in the UFC.
Yeah,
and
he couldn't get a match. Right?
Yeah, and it's like they didn't like Cyborg, and he was associated to Cyborg, and then there was like visa issues and stuff. It's true. And then, I mean, he's in PFL. I'm just glad he's fighting again.
Yes, now. Yeah. I was actually just at his gym. So he's fighting in Chicago in April. So hopefully, if I'm back in time, I might be able to catch a flight over there and get to go watch him fight. So we'll see if we can make that happen. But yeah, very excited that he's got a fight coming up.
Yeah, I mean, that guy's. I mean, he's my favorite MMA fighter from South Africa. Yeah. No offense to Dickus now is coming, but I mean, I was watching Don like
years.
I was telling him when he beat Costa Ioanu, like that's when I became a fan, because he was a striker, and then Costa Ioanu was everyone knew he was a black belt, and like he just used to grind people down, and Don Madge just said, "Nah, I'm gonna just train grappling that's all he did was train grappling for months and just out grappled the grappler."
Yeah,
and it's he's had a bit of a stagger now with injuries and stuff and whatever, but. He's still, I think, if he can get on a good run now, I think he's on his way to a title. I think.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, he's got a family now, so I think that kind of slowed him down for a little bit. So yeah, I'm very, very glad to see him get back on the train and start to compete again.
Do you guys? You said you got some MMA guys there. Do they regularly come to you for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. So obviously, Gary fights MMA, so he's a fighter for one. And so he's got a lot of friends from different organizations that come in and help him train. So Andre Feely is a guy who comes in to train quite often. Rory McDonald came in very often, especially while he was still fighting to train with John. He's obviously retired now. Czech Congo comes in to train with us quite often.
That guy was so... I mean, he still is.
Yeah, he's a unit. Beast,
he was scary.
Yeah,
in the UFC.
Big dude. Yeah, very, very nice guy. One of the most humble people I've ever met. Obviously, George St. Pierre comes in to train with us quite often.
Have you met GSP?
Yeah, a few times. Yeah, very nice guy.
That guy is a perfect example of just being good, like really good at a lot
everything.
Of stuff.
Yeah,
he might not be the best. You might be better than him at jiu-jitsu, let's say. Josh Koscheck was like a better wrestler.
Yeah.
There might be better strikers, but putting everything together.
Oh yeah, George.
He was at
so smooth,
just the right level.
Yeah. No, I mean, Yeah, and I mean, he's still in such phenomenal shape for someone who's been retired for as long as he has been, you know. When he comes into train, he doesn't miss a beat. I mean, he's, phenomenal athlete.
What's his jiu-jitsu level like in just the pure...
Very good. He's very tough. I mean, obviously, like, when he comes and trains with us, most of the guys who train with him can submit him. But, I mean, for someone who's, you know, doesn't train jiu-jitsu full time, he puts up one hell of a fight. You know, he's very technical, and he has like certain areas that he's very like competent in. You know, it's like even for us who go in there, if we get stuck in a certain area, he's able to sweep us or, you know, reverse the position or whatnot. So yeah, he's very good.
One final question. Have you ever tapped Gordon? I mean, this might be a stupid question, no. But have you guys, has it been a chance?
Yeah. I have, I think maybe once or twice.
Really?
Yeah, but to be honest with you, I'm not going to say like it happens often. It's very hard, and from most of the time when it happens, it is like from positional sparring, right? Okay. So we start in like a worse position. So in an open match, I haven't. Yeah, but I'll get there, hopefully. You know, now that he's sick and frail, you know, if Gordon watches this, I'm coming for you.
Watch out.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry, one more final question. Yeah. If, I mean, obviously we want, you know, everybody wants Gordon Ryan to compete and stuff like that. But I think, maybe not a question, maybe just like a statement. I think, you know, you would sort of be the natural sort of heir to his...
Yeah,
you know,
look.
Do you also see it that way, or have you just not thought about?
I haven't thought about it, to be honest with you. And I mean, I want him to compete as long as possible. But I mean, we have, the team is so thick at the moment. I mean, obviously Nicholas. I think, you know, obviously the way he's competing, it seems like he's probably the closest to what Gordon has been. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely my goal to be, you know, better than Gordon's been. You know, so. Hopefully that's the way it'll go, and I mean, I believe it will be like that. But I hope Gordon is still able to compete for many years.
Yeah, no, I hope so too, and we're looking forward to seeing how far you can go. I mean, everybody said it that knows you, how much of a progression they saw like every single year when you've been there.
Yeah,
and you've only been there like 3 years
it's
now.
coming up on 3 years now. Yeah.
And so another 3 years, another 5 years, hopefully, whatever the time may be.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, we're going to be obviously backing you all the way.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, we hopefully see you one day, sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
as
sooner I hope.
Yeah,
hopefully this year we'll try and make it happen. But awesome. Thank you.
Well, thanks. I appreciate the time, Luke.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.